Good evening. Welcome to a regularly scheduled meeting of the Waterville City Council. I used to be able to tell you where the agendas are. I don't know right now. They in the other room?
Yes.
They are in the other room. If you're watching from home, that would be, I believe, the high school cafeteria. And before we get started, we will stand and say the pledge. Right behind you, Amy. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First up, I have the disclosure of conflict of interest. Is there anybody here on the council that has a conflict of interest with any of the votes they'll take tonight? Seeing as none, we'll move on to the approval of the consent agenda. Could I get a motion for the approval of the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? I will get a roll call, please.
Councilor Morris?
Yes.
Councilor Oliveira?
Yes.
Councilor Mayu?
Yes.
Councilor Foss?
Yes.
Councilor Frankie?
Yes.
Councilor Thomas?
Yes.
Vote is 6 in favor, 0 opposed.
Next, unfinished business ordinance 146, 2020.
An ordinance providing for amendment to the traffic ordinance. Be it enacted by the City Council of the City of Waterville, acting as the municipal officers as follows. That the traffic ordinance is amended as shown on the following page.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Councilor Foss?
I would like to move that we amend this, the underlined area, to read, on any street in a residential A or residential B zone between 9 p.m. and 7 a.m. if the vehicle is a commercial vehicle registered as such by a state, has a registered gross vehicle weight in excess of 18,000 pounds, and used as for on-duty call service. So basically, we're taking that 34,000 pounds down to 18, and including the on-call, on-service, on-call, on-duty service. I'd like to make that amendment.
I'll second that.
Discussion on the amendment. Mike?
Could you repeat the last,
Yep.
after the 18,000 pounds?
Yeah, it's changing, take the 34,000 pounds out, add in
Yep.
18,000 pounds.
Yep.
And used as for on-duty / call service.
Okay.
Yeah, Mike, I think essentially what we want to do is we want to make sure that we write this in a way that, you know, we don't prohibit folks from bringing their work vehicles home, but we don't want them, you know, especially vehicles, you know, in excess of these pounds are typically these big diesel trucks. They have the loud backups and things like that, and really cause a nuisance at night for folks that are going in and out, in and out, in and out. Yeah. So we're hoping that this verbiage will eliminate that piece of it. Mm-hmm. So we're not saying if you're an over-the-road trucker and you bring your truck home and you're not leaving until, you know, 6, 7 in the morning, then that's fine. Like, yep. But the constant coming and going at all hours of the night, you know, it's got to stop in these residential areas.
Yes.
Like, how would we know if they're on call at 2 a.m. in the morning if we get, without waking them to find out?
Well, that's the question of the day. We look, you know, it's going to be, we've got to start somewhere. And as we go through this, you know, we know that telecom is going to get a call out once in a while. Cable companies are going to get a call out once in a while. I know because I used to work for telecom for 18 years. Record services are going to get calls out multiple times. You know that from your line of work.
Issue before we'd be able to issue them a citation, we'd have to determine that they were on call. That's in the early morning hours.
Mm-hmm.
Someone made a complaint, we'd have to make a call for that.
Mm-hmm.
Resident try to find that person.
Yep.
If they were on call.
Mm-hmm.
Determine whether they're on call or not. And so that would also mean that anyone that's not on call can leave their vehicle out on the street.
Mm-hmm.
Just a reminder for people that speak from the audience, probably going to have to come to the mic here at the chair.
Yeah, I can barely hear the chief.
Just from an enforcement perspective, I would probably do away with the on-call language. I think that makes it problematic for enforcement, locating the person, and then it allows for other vehicles that are not on call to park there. And part of this complaint was that parking on the road was a traffic hazard.
Right, I mean, I think part of the complaint is, and I just want everyone to put themselves in somebody else's shoes for a sec, is
Right.
that you're living in a residential neighborhood and you are constantly staring out at two enormous wreckers. You know, I actually anecdotally have a friend who lives in Winslow who has a school bus parked across the street from them in a very tight neighborhood. And like these are things like, you know, we have very draconian codes of how we're supposed to keep our property in a residential neighborhood. And if somebody else, you know, potentially could make your neighborhood look like a commercial zone. So I think that was part of the complaint, is I would think. I know it primarily revolved around the noise and the the coming and the going, but as the chief said, I also heard a lot about the traffic hazard, with pictures showing, you know, especially with snowbanks in the winter,
Right.
they're out there and there's really barely any room to get by, or just half a lane or one lane.
You got thoughts on that, Councilor Morris?
Well, I mean, I think that at the end of the day, pulling them off the street solves the traffic issue, which is great, but I think creates more of a nuisance from a noise perspective, because they're going to be backing in and out of that driveway all hours of the night, and those things are just as loud as sitting on the street at 2 a.m. and, you know, whatnot. So the goal is to, you know, eliminate just that coming and going altogether, you know, from these vehicles, you know, in this particular location, or, you know, any other residential location.
Yeah, I know there's been differences of opinion. I know some members of the planning board have gone over and looked at the codes and feel that someone going in and out and taking calls all night and going in and out is actually running a business out of the home, because they're essentially operating the business at that point from that residential location. Our code enforcement officer doesn't believe that that is the case, and so therein lies the rub of how do we need new language or don't we? If we do already have language that prohibits that, and the council feels that we do, the council can certainly give the city manager a direction on how to interpret that. Ultimately, the city council is the buck stops with you. And you guys are the ultimate interpreters, you are the ultimate enforcers, and you can say this is how this is going to be interpreted. So I think there's that piece of it too. I'm not necessarily saying either way how it should be on that one, but Mr. Lee.
Should I go to?
You can go to like that empty table right there too, or swap out.
Mayor, just to add one thing to that, if there's a prosecution, ultimately it's going to be a judge that decides whether or not it's been violated, and it's going to have to be really clear. And the question of whether or not somebody is running a business because they're in and out when the actual primary location and the call center and so forth is in a different location, it starts looking very gray. And if we're prosecuting it, we have to prove the case. They don't have to prove that they're in the right. We have to prove that they are in the wrong. So I'd have a concern with that if we were in court and I was, you know, if the chief said, hey, we want you there for this prosecution, it's really good to have a bright line. And it's difficult with people who are, they have a vehicle at home, but they work at a different location. Is that running a business out of your home? You can argue that back and forth. That's the point I wanted to make.
Yeah, I'm worried that it's, up for interpretation. I'm somewhat with the chief here. How are we gonna, you're gonna write a code that says, you can't be on call? That's a little,
Well, for the on-call, that's why the 18,000 pound, because of the telecom/cable, those guys are about 14,000 pounds or lighter in their vehicles. Anything over and above that would be into that wrecker, trucking atmosphere. And I know that because I've seen gross vehicle weights on a brand new, the newest one that I could get my hands on, telecom truck, fully loaded bucket. And that was about 14,000. So I gave it a little bit of leniency. If you're gonna weight it down, or, there's gonna be some new attachment down the road, I don't wanna narrow it down to today's standards, 5 years down the road, maybe it'd be a 15,000, 16,000 pound vehicle.
I don't necessarily care about the verbiage of on-call. I just want to make sure that we put some verbiage in there that says that you can bring that truck home, but it stays there until it doesn't run all hours of the night.
And that's
so I don't, like, if you want to call it on-call or not, but then you're able to bring these trucks, vans, buses, whatever you want to bring home, and leave it there. But in these residential neighborhoods, they're not to be started up at 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning for just to go out on calls.
That's why we came up with the on-duty on-call.
I mean, I'm not going to die on the hill for that verbiage.
Do you have some input on that, Mr. Lee? You see the direction that we're going, and
Can
where...
I say something real quick before we get into that?
yes.
I wonder if this is actually covered by any of our noise ordinances. For example, you couldn't go out and mow your lawn at 2 o'clock in the morning. So if this truck is coming and going all night long, creating a nuisance in the neighborhood, is that not covered in some other part of our ordinance?
It's a good question.
I don't think so.
I don't believe so, Eric.
If there's a dog barking all night, you can call the police and they'll tell the people to put it inside.
That's dog barking, yep. You're talking about noise, if I heard your question correctly?
Yeah.
Right. That's the real issue. And here's what I think in the interim, these wreckers are not parking on the street anymore. I believe they're actually backing it into the driveway.
Sorry to cut you off, but last time I saw it was...
Excuse me.
Sorry.
We don't
probably creating more noise. And so, I wonder if it's more a matter of adding some language to our noise ordinance, in order to actually stop this, rather than, going down the road of trying to figure out what sort of people can be on call or not on call, or, and I also agree these vehicles should not be parked in the road in residential zones. That's all I have.
Councilor Foss?
So, Councilor Thomas, do you think that we should, is it your opinion that we drop off the on-call and leave the 18,000 pounds so that we can keep them off the street and then, advise on the noise later?
I think that may be the way to go, to see if we can add something to our noise ordinance to include, this type of disturbance.
I don't know what type of noise, like, I don't know how to write that so that we can just say, if I can hear it, then I don't start it, what, is somebody gonna go out with a meter and just be like, hey, you've exceeded the noise thing, who's gonna go out there at 2 in the morning and say, you're loud? We
certainly could add language, like, for example, the beeping that it makes when it backs up.
Everyone, excuse me. I would like to just continue to have an orderly meeting where everybody talks one person at a time. I'd like everybody not to talk for 10 minutes at a time, because that's how these meetings are also supposed to be run, but I don't want to be talking over people. So if we could have Mike finish and then let Eric finish the way we let Eric go before Rick. So.
No, I just want to understand is if we're going to go down that road, which is fine, I like it. I just want to know what the criteria is, or how do we determine how loud that is. That's all.
And Mike Roy.
And Chief Matthew may want to address it more, but you actually have to be there and you have to have a meter that's calibrated. And
but we know the trucks in question, right? So we can calibrate them and say you can't, like, if they exceed the noise, regardless of when they fire up. So
Well-
a resident can be like, hey, I was awoke at 2 in the morning, get it on video, we know it's loud, we know because we've tested it, we know what this omits.
I like the idea of suggestion that we try this parking ban first, and if it doesn't work, then we go to Plan B, which could be the noise thing. It would give us time to understand that better as to how to do it. And I don't think we have the equipment to conduct the tests.
Then it's a pointless request then, it's a pointless thing to say, well, let's put it in the noise ordinance, we don't have the equipment to test the noise,
Let
we
me
might as
just
well not
ask
do
the-
anything at all.
Chief, do we have anything like that, the sound meters?
Decibel.
Yes, we do, but
Okay.
we do have a sound meter. But
We haven't closed the budget, can we get a sound enforcement officer? Just have him drive around,
Yeah, people will love that.
Yeah.
the big
Let's stick with the parking.
satellite
my
dish on the top of the
recommendation
car.
would be to craft this amendment to keep the vehicles from parking on the street. There is a state law called disorderly conduct which deals with loud and unreasonable noise. Who determines that? The officer, based on his senses, his time of day, night. So conceivably, a truck could be loud and unreasonable. Music could be loud and unreasonable depending on the type of time of day, time of night, whether it's a neighborhood, an open area. So we don't go around with a noise meter to gauge disorderly conduct. The courts will take the officer's testimony that based on his senses and the circumstances that where the loud noise is being coming from, whether it's loud and unreasonable, and then enforce that, either giving someone a summons for disorderly conduct or whatever it may warrant.
We actually have, it looks like we have some folks from the public that want to speak on this. If it's okay with everybody on the council, I'd like to give them a shot, even though our conversation seems to get going, because that might steer us in a different direction. So looks like I don't see any objections to that, so we'll invite members of the public to come in.
Kathy Weeks, Ward 1 and Planning Board. I have been over to that street multiple times, different times of the day, evening and night. Number one, those two wreckers are parking on the street, so if a car is oncoming, it's blocking the drive for the other car. And I have heard the noise that all of these residents for about a year has had to endure. So I'm not sure where Mr. Thomas is deciding that the wreckers aren't on the street. And I have pictures, the residents have pictures, and also videos of the noise. So I'm imploring the council really to let's find a solution for these elderly people.
And just for correction, I think Eric said they were on the street. Actually, I think he was trying to say that his fix is to get them off the street. Is
Okay,
my
it
understanding.
sounded like it,
Sure.
sorry.
That's right. Is there any other members of the public? Are there any other members of the public who would like to speak on this? No. Okay, I'll bring it back to the council, and everybody can give it one last round. We're still on the amendment. Would you like to withdraw that amendment and start from scratch? Is that what we're doing, or are we still debating this particular amendment?
I would like to work with Mike, Council Morris.
Yeah, I mean, I think,
Because him and I crafted it. So.
if we can, let's amend the amendment to drop the on-call at this point and at least drop the weight limit down.
Yep.
And that puts them off the street, because at the end of the day, we just wrote an ordinance that doesn't cure anything, because these vehicles are 26,000 pounds and we wrote it for 34,000, so they're still gonna be able to park on the street without any issue. And that way, I mean, you know, High Street's a pretty populated street, so that way if we see them out there at 2 in the morning, we can ticket them and at least, you know, get that. And then I think that, yeah, we absolutely need to work and try to figure out the best way to.
Okay, would you like to table this to the next meeting? Is it?
No, I think we can. I mean, we'll just amend it again, I think.
Okay, I think, yeah, so let's
Well, I'll rescind the motion and make a new amendment, make a new motion for a new amendment, lowering 34,000 pounds down to 18,000 pounds without
I'll
all
second
the other,
that.
all the other
Okay.
stuff.
Okay. Is there any discussion on that before we take a vote on that? No, we got a second from Mike.
Good.
I don't see any hands, so I will ask for a roll call on the amendment.
Counselor Morris?
Yes.
Counselor Oliveira?
Yes.
Counselor Mayu?
Yes.
Counselor Foss?
Yes.
Counselor Frankie?
No.
Counselor Thomas?
Yes.
Vote is 5 in favor, 1 opposed.
And can I get a motion to move as amended, please?
So moved.
Second.
And discussion on this as a whole. I see no further commentary. I'll ask for a roll call, please.
Counselor Morris?
Yes.
Counselor Oliveira?
Yes.
Counselor Mayu?
Yes.
Counselor Foss?
Yes.
Counselor Frankie?
No.
Counselor Thomas?
Yes.
Vote is 5 in favor, 1 opposed.
Next up on the agenda, we have Order 155, 2020.
Can I make a motion to take the rest of the items on the agenda by title only?
So moved.
Can I get a roll call, please?
Counselor Morris?
Yes.
Counselor Oliveira?
Yes.
Counselor Mayu?
Yes.
Counselor Foss?
Yes.
Counselor Frankie?
Yes.
Counselor Thomas?
Yes.
Vote is 6 in favor, 0 opposed.
And then I have a quick question. Do we have school board members attending this meeting tonight?
I don't believe so.
Okay, then I'm going to make a motion to take the agenda out of order and to take up Resolution 179-2020 first. That's the charter. I'm just trying to not make Bill wait through the rest of the meeting or anyone who wants to speak on the charter.
I'll second that.
Okay. Yeah.
Perfect.
Second.
Do I need a roll call on that? Yep, okay.
Counselor Morris?
Yes.
Counselor Oliveira?
Yes.
Counselor Mayu?
Yes.
Counselor Foss?
Yes.
Counselor Frankie?
Yes.
Counselor Thomas?
Yes.
Vote is 6 in favor, 0 opposed.
Okay, so we're going to bring up for discussion resolution that those in the audience will find under new business, Resolution 179, 2020.
A resolution providing for accepting the final report of the Charter Commission and authorizing a special municipal election for the charter revision. Now therefore be it resolved by the Waterville City Council acting as the municipal officers as follows. That this-
We're reading by title only.
Sorry.
Clearly, I was out to lunch on that one. All right. Can I get a motion to adopt?
Second. Motion to adopt.
Motion. Second.
All right, we're open for council discussion. Yes.
I have questions for somebody from the commission. I saw some of them.
Yeah, I saw at least 3 members here. I saw Rian Finch. I saw Julian Payne, Kathy. Okay, so there's 5 members here. So if members of the commission want to come our way, I think there might be some questions for you.
Come on down.
I thought Bill was here for Bowley's.
30 years smoking.
Hi, welcome. Are you the only one that came to talk?
I think, are you guys doing the majority report or the minority report first?
No, I
don't know. I think we just have some questions, so.
Okay.
But welcome.
I have-
Thank you for being here.
Does the proposal give us, I'll backtrack to January when rulemaking was set for how items would advance towards the final package.
Okay.
And I remember back then, because I was in the room with you folks, to move an item, you needed a 7-3 or better vote to move that item from inception to the completed project. Does this represent all of those 7-3 and 8-2 and above items?
It does, with the exception of the ones that we have removed. I believe we wound up removing 4 that had initially made it on.
Okay.
And so during coming together at the end, having a final compromise document based on some advice from Bill Lee. We wound up striking, we wound up striking 4.
Okay. Was one of those three-year term limits on counselors?
It was.
Okay. Why at the, what seemingly, from my perspective, because I was not there at the very end, why at the very end did the rule change? When I was there in January.
I want to be perfectly clear that
Hold on,
I'm not done
yet.
You asked about the rule change.
Mayor?
Okay, I'll
So, during January's meeting, everybody was very, very open and very receptive to the way that the 7-3 votes and above were going to proceed to the end package. What, at the end of it, when it was ready to go to your final vote, what determination took out the 7-3s?
So, first of all, it was the first meeting in February, our first meeting in February, and it was a 9-0 vote. There was 1 absent member, just so we have the facts. I mean, really, again, as I said, our final determination really came from making sure we had a cohesive, standardized document, and then based on advice from Bill Lee, we removed 7-3 votes.
Okay. That's all I have.
Okay. Any other questions? Oh, I see Councilor Frankie with his hand up. Councilor?
I don't think we're here tonight to review the procedures of the commission. I believe we're just here on a ministerial basis to move their recommendation to the election. Is that correct, Attorney Lee?
Ultimately, that's what the council is going to do, but the whole process is open for questions at this point. I mean, this is a public meeting, and if a counselor has a question about, why you did this versus why you did that, that question is certainly permissible. But ultimately, the council's not going to get to alter the document. We have an independently elected charter commission. This is the document. And whether council likes it or not, it ultimately has to just pass it on to the voters, and the voters ultimately decide whether it passes or not. But any questions about the process and what does this mean, and why did you do it this way versus that way, that's all part of the public education process.
Yep.
Sorry, Claude.
Thank you.
Councilor.
I do have a statement for what I've read and what I've learned tonight. I will be voting no on this. The movement from 7-3s being struck from the final package, along with the opening of 18-year-olds or above, or older, should I say, being able to run for mayor, councilor, and the admin of schools. In my personal opinion, 18 years old, that means you can still be in high school and run for mayor. I can't support that. That doesn't, I can't understand that in my brain. Along with counselors, with the things that come across our desks, I just feel like 18 is too young. Not that you're not educated, but it seems to me too young. So that's why, those are the reasons I'll be voting no for this.
Hey, if I could just point out that, well, for one, anybody can vote no for any reason. I mean, our goal was to get this to the voters. We got it to the voters. If you're unhappy with it for any reason, go ahead, vote no. If you're fine with maintaining the status quo for the next 7 years, vote no. If you don't like the baseball team I root for and you want to vote no, vote no. I mean, whatever. You can vote no for any reason. I do think this is a solid document. There are some changes that happened at the state level that were incorporated into this. I mean, there are things that, Patty and the clerk's office can work around for the next 7 years if they have to. But, counselor, if you vote no and your reason for voting no is because we set that age limit to 18, voting no would set it back to what it is currently, where there is no age limit, meaning someone's 17 or 16 or, my 9-year-old friend, down the street, she could turn around, run, have her parents put her up, and So we, at the advice of the clerk's office, set that age to 18, and we did that based on a change in state law that now allows 16 and 17-year-olds to pre-register to vote. And in the case of 17-year-olds, they can actually vote in primaries. And so the clerk's office thought it was a good idea to kind of state, well, you might be able to vote like in a primary at the age of 17 or register to vote at 16, but you can't be elected to office unless you are of legal voting age. And so that's how that threshold got set.
Thank you. It's still a no.
I see Eric Thomas with his hand up.
Bill, so let's, what happens if we were to vote no on this? I mean, we can't just, the city, the voters of the city voted to have a charter commission, which I assume ultimately means they should have a chance to vote on revisions. I mean, what is the procedure if we were to say no, for whatever reason, we don't like this and we're not going to send it to the voters, go back to work? Like, does that just mean it's over? Or does it mean they go back to work on it? What would happen at that point?
I would have a further conversation with the council if a majority of the council were to vote no, because by state law, it has to go to the voters. Once the Charter Commission has delivered its final proposed revised charter, you are under an obligation to send it to the voters. So if a majority of you voted not to send it to the voters, we're going to have a conversation about that, because ultimately we could end up in court, and I expect a court would order us, or would order it to go to the voters, and I don't think anybody wants to go down that road. Because ultimately, the voters have to have the final say on this matter.
So the only real power we have is when that vote takes place. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be November, for example. If we decided to wait until next June, that's really the only power we have. We don't have the power to say, no, we're not going to allow people to vote on this.
Correct.
Councilor Frankie?
I would like to, first of all, commend the members of the Charter Commission for working hard in what appears to have been a very contentious atmosphere with a lot of different issues considered, and I'm very impressed that they have resolved as many issues as they did. Thank you very much, Charter Commission members. I only have one particular thing that bothers me about the recommendation, and that's the supermajority for passing the budget. I happen to think that that's minority rule rather than majority rule. However, I will be voting to send this to the voters because the main thing here is it's time for the voters to take a look at the charter proposals and make their own decision.
Right. I think at this time, if there's no objections from the council, I see that there's other folks here that would like to have their say. Rian, do you have any regular commentary you'd like to add? Because I want to give you a chance. You came in for a question. If you had any final commentary, I'd like to give you that opportunity.
No, I mean, this is we spent 6 months working on this. Most of our changes have to do with making the charter easier to understand. We relocated some stuff to different sections to put it all into one place, make it easier for the layperson to go in and understand how the city works. A lot of updating state statutes. And, again, our goal was to get it to the voters, and we got it to the voters, so now it's really up to them. So.
Great, thank you.
Julian Payne, Cornville. It was an interesting process. It wasn't as contentious as it actually could have been, all things considered. There was a lot of gridlock. It seemed to be more about blocking votes, which, if you look at the makeup of the Charter Commission, it was quite diverse. So if we didn't agree, we were a pretty wide reflection of the community of Waterville, so there's a good chance the voters wouldn't agree. There's very few things that really made it on, but it was a lot of us just saying, we just don't agree on this, so it won't make that threshold. So it wouldn't have passed a vote probably either, which goes to show that for all its faults, the old charter wasn't that bad. There's not a lot of rocky changes being made. At times, I didn't feel there was a lot of debate. There was, I concur with, I agree with, I back so-and-so, which when you say that, it means there wasn't really much openness for discussion. It seemed to be a voting block, a lot of it predetermined. The biggest thing for me is we set very clear rules in the beginning, and we formed those rules as a commission, and we voted unanimously to agree to those rules. And when I hear, well, Bill Lee was advised, or, you know, deferring back to Bill Lee was also very clear that we had ultimate authority as a charter commission. And those rules were simply that for anything to amend, it must be 7-3. We all agreed, and one member said, no picking and choosing. If it makes it on there, it is 7-3. At the end, a charter member who was a dissenter of the 7-3 votes motioned to reopen those votes up for further debate. And what happened at that point was it was inferred that maybe we could move that from 7-3 to 10-0 so the public would have confidence in us. But that's actually not what happened. There was talk online that they had motioned to put it back to 5-5 to kill that vote off the commission. And the vote that was pertinent to was a swing vote to pass the entire charter to the community. The one person that wasn't a swing vote, Kathy Weeks, her amendment died at, they voted to remove her amendment of term limits. And, you know, so there was a lot of that going on. I felt that was wrong. I stuck to the rules. I played by the rules. If my vote didn't make it, it died. We didn't motion to amend that, so I found that process disingenuous. And when you played by those 7-3 rules, it also shaped the future of the charter, because some votes died and failed at 7-3 and didn't quite make it onto that. So I thought there was a fair bit of real politics during this process. Another example is when we had a public hearing, people came and spoke from all over wards, all over the city, many different wards, about preserving the ward system. When it wasn't quite liked what was said, they wanted to reopen for another public hearing, to have another hearing from the community and maybe reshape the narrative as well. So that whole process, I wish they'd have stuck to the original rules, and it would have definitely had my vote. There's nothing on this charter that I wouldn't support. I think, you know, what they are presenting is a good package. There's things we lost playing by the 7-3 vote on there. So that's consequently why I voted against that at that point. I'm not sure if there's any questions.
No. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
I just wanted to make one quick note that the end, we keep hearing about the change of votes and going back and revisiting different items. At the end, there was a little bit of debate over who was going to approve the final charter. So the reason why we looked at some of those lower threshold votes that were not at the 8-4 supermajority is because the charter could have failed at that point and not even left the commission. We were trying to come up with consensus across the entire group and the majority of the group. So I think that that's really important to note, that it was really more of a consensus building, a discussion. It wasn't to be rude or take something away from anybody. It was literally compromising. So I think that that's really important to note.
Thank you.
Hi. I would just like to say, like Julian just said, it's a consensus package. It's a good package, and I just implore you in your duty as counselors to send it to the voters and let them decide in November and not any later.
Thank you for coming.
I would just like to echo what Mr. Payne had said. The rule on day one was any 7-3s, we would move forward, and that did not happen. There was a lot of under-table dealings going on, and at one point when one person who would be the sway vote was not present, they brought the topic back again, trying to get that vote resurrected to not pass. And the other thing that 2 or 3 of us campaigned on about the resident taxpayers voting on the budget. We tried to hold our ground to that, and then it died because 5 people voted against it, and one of those 5 adamantly said, I do not mind paying higher taxes. So I just want residents to know we really, really try to fight and represent them on the tax and the budgets. But the 7-3 votes, one was taken away and one was left, again, for the under-table deals. So when residents speak to several of us, how should we vote? We're just going to give them the opinion of what really happened out there. But I do thank Mr. Lee. He's been a great resource. Thank you for coming to that first meeting and trying to set the ground rules. So thank you so much.
Is there any members of the public out there? I thought I saw Charlie Jagir, and I wasn't. Maybe he was. Did he want to talk on this item? Maybe it was a different item, and he thought he was confused. All right. Is there any further discussion, Councilor Mayhew?
Yeah, I just want to say, I've heard a lot of things from the Charter Commission on the fringes, whether it be media, Facebook, and direct talks with some of the members. Myself. I do think the Charter Commission's work is very commendable, because this comes around every 7 years. This is not an easy task, and I think every member on the Charter Commission is to be applauded to what they did and what they took on, because this is the governing framework of how we conduct business in our local government in the city of Waterville. Probably one of the most important documents that there is in the foundation of our local government with the city of Waterville. And obviously, I just commend every member for their diligent work, the months of the meetings and public hearings and vice versa. I do believe there are ideological differences and political posturing that has been said here, and I do concur with that. I think in any format that there is of this essence of importance, especially with this document, there's going to be some of that, no matter what you think and no matter what you say, there's going to be some of that in play. Unfortunately, that's the world that we live in. In my opinion, if we didn't have political parties at all and we could all get along like other municipalities do, and not have either party involved and all of us just be good neighbors, that is what I proclaim every single day of my life and every time I walk my streets, is that let's all get along and let's be good neighbors to one another. Let's do what's best for the city of Waterville. And it's too bad that there is not that present, and I wish and pray to the Lord above that there would be someday. I'll continue to pray about that like so many others do. But I do want to commend their work. It's diligent work, it's complicated work, and it comes with sacrifice, just like the members of this council. We all have different sacrifices, different slices of our lives that we put ourselves out there because this is what we have chosen to do. I really enjoy what I do as a city councilor. I have great relationships with my community and my constituents, and the Charter Commission as well. They've done some great sacrifices, so I commend their work, the approachability of what they've done, and the content. And I do think this is a good document. I think there are good changes. I disagree with Councilor Frankie on the majority vote for the municipal budget. I do think that is a good put in there. I think the most important thing that this city council votes on annually is the municipal budget. I think having a stopgap and having something in there as a supermajority to pass the municipal budget is great thing to have to show some reverence and some protection for the residential taxpayer, that we really do care and we want to get it right. If we don't get it right, then we go back to the drawing board and we work diligently until we get it right. So those are my comments on this.
Question for Billy.
Yes, of course.
It has to do with the second page of the letter, that last paragraph where we made a recommendation to them to change the zoning ordinance. Is that something that they have to self-initiate, or is that something that can happen automatically in terms of getting it on the agenda?
Well, you need a counselor to sponsor that to get it on the agenda.
So then I would strongly suggest that a counselor sponsor that recommendation to amend and allow things to go before the planning board without having to be presented to council first. You guys might want to look at it, tweak it a little bit, but we had initially passed a revision in the charter that would have kind of allowed the planning board to have the final say unless 2/3 of council overrode them. That passed unanimously with no debate. We were all real gung-ho about that one. Billy informed us that that violated home rule. So we came up with this suggestion that kind of makes things a little easier for business owners to get business in front of the city. If the city manager can place something on the planning board's agenda without the council having to place it, and then planning board has to wait 2 weeks because they have to notice it for 2 weeks, and then
Because they never don't send it. Because because I get what you're saying. Because it's almost like a procedural step that just.
it's more just, reducing the 2-week waiting period when there's something. And so that's our very strong recommendation to kind of make it easier for developers here in the city so they're not stretched out so long.
Fair enough. Thank you. No, I appreciate it. All right, I will ask for a roll call, please.
Counselor Morris?
Yes.
Counselor Oliveira?
Yes.
Counselor Mayu?
Yes.
Counselor Foss?
No.
Counselor Frankie?
Yes.
Counselor Thomas?
Yes.
Vote is 5 in favor, 1 opposed.
All right, now we'll move from that right into the budget. Thank you. Order 155, 2020.
Quick question before we go move on, Nick. Does this mean that the recommendation automatically goes on the November ballot?
I assume the resolution just passed is putting it on for the November election.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
You wouldn't want to put it on for the June election. A charter commission did that once, and not enough people voted to make it a valid vote, because you have to have a minimum of 30% of those who voted in the last gubernatorial election to actually vote on a matter. So very strongly want this to be on the November ballot, so there's no question it would be a legitimate vote.
So do it for that 3 months that the Kobe kids are here, is what you're saying. Make sure we get the numbers up.
I'm sorry, I lost what the motion was in the course of the extended debate. That's why I asked the question. Did we actually vote to put it on the November ballot?
Yeah.
Yes.
Looks like it's already going to be there.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Can I get Chad to give us a little more volume?
If we get a little more volume up there, it's getting with the rain, it's hard to hear them. Yeah. That's some rain. Oh, Eric's on the move. I saw that.
You make sure my windows are closed.
I think my sunroof's open.
Oh,
No, it's not.
Okay.
That's it. Got it.
I would like to not be doing the Zoom. We tell the planning board they need to show up for meetings, and yet our city council doesn't have to show up for meetings. There is a little something wrong with that.
Okay. Thank you, Chad.
All right, I'm going to move on now to Order 155, 2020.
In order providing for appropriation of municipal and school operating budgets for the period of July 1, 2020 through June 30, 2021.
Move to adopt.
Second.
We are open for discussion. Are there any councilors that have any discussion on the budget? Any questions? Yes, Councilor.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate what I said at the last vote on the municipal budget. This is out of my 5.5 years as a city councilor. This is the best budget that I've seen. I'm sure the mayor has seen. Being able to
Wow.
put forth a municipal budget that we're in the black. Great diligent work on the administration.
Feel free to
Same can be said about the Board of Education.
You can come right over here.
Their work that they have done to put their own budget in the black is beyond commendable. So I'm very happy to see that there is no tax increase, because I do believe that is our own local government stimulus to our residential taxpayers, that we do not have a tax increase during this COVID pandemic and the economic crisis that we're in due to it, with so many businesses being closed and so much unemployment. So I do believe that this is an excellent budget for the city of Waterville, and I'm very happy to support it.
Councilor Frankie.
I just wanted to ask Mike Roy if he could update us on where we stand with revenue sharing.
Sounds good. Anybody else? No? We'll open it to members of the public who would like to speak on the budget.
Is Mike not going to update us on revenue sharing?
Oh, Mike, do you want to update us on revenue sharing?
Yes, we received very, very good news today with the latest projections from the State Treasurer's Office. So we had budgeted originally back in February $2.6 million in revenue sharing. When the pandemic hit, we cut $800,000 from that estimate, brought it back down to $1.8 million, which was what we had actually budgeted last year. So we kept our revenue sharing flat last year to this year. Now today, we find out that the State Treasurer's Office is projecting at this time $2.3 million for Waterville, instead of what we have budgeted at 1.8. Now, we got a long ways to go to see that all of that 2.3 comes in. Right?
Yeah.
So if it does, then thank goodness we won't have to touch our surplus, because we're in our surplus by 500. So that extra 500 in revenue sharing would offset the surplus, and be great news for the city.
That would
But
be a godsend, Mike. Yes.
we got 12 months to go, so I think I'm glad we were at 1.8. It's a conservative number, and we'll hope for the best.
Awesome news.
Okay, anybody else? There are no members of the public here, so I will ask for a roll call.
Councilor Morris?
Yes.
Councilor Oliveira?
Yes.
Councilor Mayu?
Yes.
Councilor Foss?
Yes.
Councilor Frankie?
Yes.
Councilor Thomas?
Yes.
Vote is 6 in favor, 0 opposed.
All right.
Right.
I have a question.
Okay.
Out of the 2.3 million, how much is going towards the school department?
The 2.3 is just for the city. The state
Yeah.
receives its own, the school receives its own education subsidy payments and some other money through the CARES Act. But that state revenue sharing money, well, comes to the city to spend however we want, whether it be on schools or police or fire or whatever.
Or in this case, not.
So on top of the
reserved.
2.3, there's going to be a separate income that's going to come revenue for the school? Is there going to be a separate bond for the school?
I'm sorry, somebody can help me on the question. It's not separate.
No, yeah.
Yes, the school will receive, the school funding is completely separate from the city funding.
Yes.
So yes, they get their own funding, that's part of their budget and their budget planning, and we get ours.
I'm sorry, yes.
Does that make sense?
This is a
No,
percentage.
okay, I just wanted to make sure there was two separate things.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I just want to make sure your question was answered, that's all. Okay. Moving on to ordinance 164, 2020.
An ordinance providing for amendments to public safety ordinance.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion? From the public? We'll move to a roll call.
Councilor Morris?
Yes.
Councilor Oliveira?
Yes.
Councilor Mayu?
Yes.
Councilor Foss?
Yes.
Councilor Frankie?
Yes.
Is that a yes?
Yeah.
Yes.
Councilor Thomas?
Yes.
Vote is 6 in favor, 0 opposed.
Next is resolution 165, 2020.
An order providing for repair of 2 Cent Plaza.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Is there discussion? Mike?
We'll be sending out the requests for proposals tomorrow. So by 2 weeks from now, we'll have bids in. The present plan at the 2 Cent Plaza is to replace only some of the pavers, not all of them. Not all of them are damaged. And so we will repair the ones, we're hoping to be able to just repair those ones that are damaged. So what you're authorizing tonight is the approval to use the money from the 2 different funds. But when we get the bids in, we'll be back to you for approval of a contract to actually do the work.
Great. Any questions?
Yeah.
Counselor?
Mike, is it still the best plan, just to repair?
I think so.
Versus the money could be done with something that's more durable for plowing?
I think that the thing is to replace the ones that are most severely damaged, because the other ones are really in pretty good shape. I think it would be a waste to remove those. So we're probably replacing, I don't know if it's 50%. I think it's less than 50%.
And what are you going to replace it with that's not ugly? Let's not do that.
Yeah, I just don't want to be throwing money after money at this thing like a black hole, that's all. I just want to, if we're going to do it, and it's within the boundary of the money that we have, and we can replace it with something more durable, I'm just looking for that aspect.
Yeah. The ones that were damaged were really the ones where salt was used and our plow went over, and we're not going to do that again. And we didn't do that at all on some of the other sections because they weren't traveled.
Okay.
We just used one path. We're not doing that anymore.
Yeah, just let it get buried.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great. All right, I'll take a roll call, please.
Councilor Morris?
Yes.
Councilor Oliveira?
Flavia?
Okay, this is for the sidewalk. Is that correct?
Yes.
It's for the plaza down near the 2 Cent Bridge at Hedda Falls. There are a bunch of the pavers in the plaza surface that have been damaged, and it's a real safety hazard there now. We need to get this fixed as soon as we can. It's a real trip hazard, so.
Oh, yes.
Councilor Mayu?
Yes.
Councilor Foss?
Yes.
Councilor Frankie?
No.
Councilor Thomas?
Yes.
Vote is 5 in favor, 1 opposed.
Moving on to new business, resolution 172, 2020.
A resolution providing for proposed changes to outdoor dining.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Counselor Foss.
I like the proposal. I've talked to many of their businesses down there. They're doing well. Some of them are doing exceptionally well with, I mean, we're making something good out of something bad with what's transpired with COVID. A couple of people I've talked to would like to keep it at 11 p.m. Good to go till, you know, through October, but keep it to 11 p.m. Along with the stress that we'd add on to the police department monitoring and all that. So that's my thoughts on it.
I The problem is that all of these places are extremely restricted, and actually I do want to clarify that this would apply to places like Opa and Amici's and those who might want to do the outdoor seating on the sidewalks there, which actually I would love it if we could get up there and take a look at that, because they're in a little bit more precarious situation with traffic and the parking spots there.
OPA does have an outdoor.
I know they do, but they also, have, I think just today I got a note that they got a complaint, look, we've got people out there who have been conditioned now to rat everybody out. So people calling, complaining, this person's out of order, this person's out of order. It's like, so if we can find a way to make it easier, it'd be great just to go look at those setups. I don't know if we can go into the parking spots there. I know it's a little difficult because there's traffic right there, so you probably have to involve jersey barriers, things like that. I don't want to steal the thunder here, but I know this started because we had a request from the Lion's Den Tavern. We had 2 quite lengthy emails, and I don't think that this really addresses the entirety of what was requested. But Jennifer's here, so I'd love to have you come in and talk about that.
Hi, yes. I didn't hear the beginning of this because I had to leave that room, but what I had requested was an extension to the outside dining. We have a lot of people who, due to COVID, do not want to go inside. And if somebody, our kitchen stays open until we close 2 nights a week. We're open till 11. So somebody has a drink and dinner that they ordered at 10:45, they might not be finished. And we'd like to be able to let them stay out there and finish eating and having their beverage, not serve past 11. I think that what you guys wrote up was different than that. And I'm just explaining what my request was that. There was more to it than that, and I don't know if you're going to be able to address it, because in my email I had requested also, we'd like to keep our dining structure up, and we would like to keep our structure by extending that outside dining really year-round. I'm not sure how feasible it is, but we'd like to be able to have like fall festival, maybe even an ice bar. I'd have to get an extension from the state and Bablo to let us go into 2021, but I certainly would be requesting that. And if it's at all feasible to be able to keep dining outside, we'd like to do that, and as long as possible, because there are people who just won't come inside for dining. It's going to be, I see, not ending soon, so.
Thank you for the clarification about the serving outside. I asked for that park to get cleaned up for years, and it always looked bad. I would love to see that structure stay there, and I would love to have any of the restaurants, actually, I love to, any restaurant that wants to continue the outdoor dining as long as they can. I would love to work with every one of them. I think we're living in different times, and we don't know how long things are going to go different, but I think when you look at, frankly, you look at places like Europe and places that value people coming to their towns and foot traffic and things like that, they actually proactively are far ahead of us in accommodating these outdoor seating. So I would love it if that would happen for you and also for anybody else that we can possibly do it with, to be honest.
I don't know if there are any questions.
Councilor Mayhew?
Yeah, Jennifer, I got your email. I think your request is very reasonable. Again, I'm a huge hospitality small business advocate, as you know, and I do believe that the city of Waterville has stepped up to the plate with the strict state regulations that went into effect very early, and even in midstream, it's been at times very oppressive to the hospitality industry. I think there's common ground on both sides of the aisle here about that. Being in the hospitality industry myself and being under the intensity of the safeguards that we have to put in place and the protocols that we have to put in place, again, the small businesses want to be part of the solution, not the problem. And I think all of us put money, fist over money on end on resources that we don't even have. We're taking out of our savings, and we're employing the PPE, and we're doing all the safeguards for our customers that we possibly can above and beyond. And it's just there's loan after loan, and it's really, it's a huge investment on the parts of these small businesses. And we as a city have to step up, and we have to protect these resources that are as a service center. And whatever we can do to make that happen in a positive manner, I'm all for it. And Jennifer, you have my full support.
Thank you.
Jen, you and I have talked a couple of times along with Erica, and you know that I love what that looks like down there. And while you were probably transitioning, I had said staying to the 11 o'clock time frame of closing, not understanding where you were going with that. Mm-hmm. So I would offer the amendment to this to prohibit alcohol sale after 11 o'clock. Is that where you're going with that?
That was my request. I don't know
meals stop being orders stop taken after
Right.
11 o'clock. So
Right, and that's what my email had said, was just let us serve people while we're able to. We close at 11.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know what other restaurants would request, but they're not the ones requesting it. So
Yep.
we
Yep.
close at 11, as long as we've served it by then.
Yep.
You know, when we're closing up or cleaning up, let them finish their meal and let them enjoy the outside and
Yep.
not drag them
And
inside.
So the amendment I propose, and I want to pause that just for a second. I like the outdoor, the ice thing. I thought that was a cool idea. If we make that happen, you have a lot of great ideas in your head. I think some of those need to be very, very much looked at for the 21 season.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, us as a council need to be mindful of that and see what that does, because we've all been down there. That place is buzzing right now, and I like seeing it. And everybody's getting in on it. I like it. I like what I see. So going back to my amendment, I'd like to amend number 1, outdoor dining extension, serving ending at 11 o'clock.
But they can stay.
They can stay and stay. I don't know how to verb that. Somebody help me out here.
Yeah.
With closing at midnight.
And can we add to that amendment? Can we remove the restriction that it has to end in the winter?
Correct. We should remove that. It should be open-ended.
I'd go with that.
I think it's too soon to make that decision. We should probably let other people chime in before we go ahead and do that. I'm fine with extending it till the end of October for now. But we should give the surrounding business owners a chance to chime in on that before we make that decision tonight.
Councilor Foss?
Then I'd like to put that on the next agenda.
I concur with that.
Extending through an item on the agenda as either discussion, so that we can have time, a couple of weeks, to get some more information as far as opening dining through the winter.
I think as of right now, through the state, Bablo has only allowed us through 2020 anyway.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to, what I was hoping was I'd get your approval, then I go to them and say, hey, listen, we've got that approval, so.
All right, let's put it on the next agenda, Mike.
Yeah, as a discussion item.
But we'll keep this date extended as it is through November 1 or snowfall.
Yep.
As a discussion item,
As a discussion item for
Question of extending-
continued winter.
Yep.
beyond
But-
November 1.
Yeah, beyond
Yeah,
November.
that's fine.
Extending outdoor dining.
That work?
All set with me?
I second that amendment.
Can I get a,
Well, can
Actually, yeah,
I'm sorry,
come
can
on.
I ask a question?
You can ask a
So, this outdoor dining affects all outdoor dining places, right? So
Yes.
right now,
Yes.
Jennifer's the only one being vocal about, oh, okay, well, I want my business, because we shut down at 11, but there are other businesses that stay open and may serve later that this could have an impact, too. And I think that if we're going to make a change to the ordinance to, restrict that serving time, outdoors, then we should probably listen or hear how other people are running their business and how that may impact what they're currently doing.
You
Are they doing anything?
currently are not allowed to serve alcohol after 11, any place there's
Well,
outdoor
alcohol,
dining,
okay,
as
that's
far as I know.
Well, that's alcohol, but this says all food, right? Like, we can't serve food at 11:30 outside?
Can't order, right? You have to be done.
Well, that, I'm just saying,
Mr. Jagir is here. Let's hear from him.
yeah.
Hi.
Hi, welcome.
Anyway, I want to thank you for enabling us to have a wonderful COVID summer on Silver Street. You know, I think all of us have appreciated it. I'm concerned about some of the issues that are being brought up right now. Currently, I believe our permit says that all alcohol has to be off the table at 11 o'clock. Okay, so it has to, so they can have food, but they can't have an alcoholic beverage after 11 o'clock. And I'm closing at 10, so it's not a big deal. I'm closing at 9, 4 days a week, and at 10, 3 days a week, and at 10, 3 days a week. So I'm afraid a restaurant generally becomes a bar somewhere around 10 o'clock, okay? And the bar is normally associated with less social distancing. You know, I mean, I look at all of you all spread out here, okay? That's not the case after 10 o'clock if you're in an alcohol environment, you know? And my fear, and I think that if it's governed by the fear, if one restaurant in downtown Waterville has a COVID community infection, okay, it's going to be a shutdown for every restaurant in downtown Waterville. You know, I think that if it isn't a mandated shutdown, it's going to be a consumer shutdown, because nobody's going to be going into a restaurant if there's a community infection. We're blessed, we haven't had that, but you know what? Florida wasn't having that either, and I got a family of 4 living with me from Orlando where they opened up too quickly, and they're not going to go, they're going to be with me for 3 months because they can't go back there, okay, because the opening up it was too quick. So I think that Jennifer's idea of staying later, I have no problem with that, okay? I think that the dates are fine. I mean, if it's November 1st instead of October 1st, that's great. My experience is that as soon as the temperature goes below 62 degrees, okay, and I looked at the average temperatures in October, you know, the highs are 62, which means that's midday, and the lows go into the high 40s, low 30s, which is what's going to approach at like 8 o'clock at night, 7 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock at night. So I'm afraid of the bar scene, okay? And you're talking to somebody who's operated nightclubs and bars for 35 years, but I'm afraid when we transition from I'm going to seat this party at this table, and then I've got 6 feet distancing between the tables, and I'm seating this party. We don't allow people to mill around. I'm afraid when it all gets like huggy and the face masks come off after alcohol is introduced and everybody's not socially distancing anymore. So what that means in terms of this proposal, I don't know. That's for you to decide. All I know is I don't want a community infection because it's going to mandate another shutdown, which costs us tens of thousands of dollars, and we don't want to go there. My staff doesn't want to go there, and I mean, I don't plan on being part of that late night scene. So I just, with caution, you do whatever you think you should, but I know where I'm going with this, and again, I'm afraid of. How do you stay open until midnight if nobody can have a beverage in front of you? How does that? Sorry, we have to take your gin and tonic. You can finish your chicken tenders. You know what I mean? What sense does that make?
Well, I think in Jennifer's case, she's open till 11 2 nights a week. But if people are still lingering there and they're finishing their drink, they don't want to have to say, well, you need to get up and leave, or we're taking your drink. And it's more, she wasn't asking to serve past 11. Yeah. She was asking that they'll be allowed to finish their whatever they have in front of them.
Well, for the last 10 years, it's basically, hey, you have to finish your drink or you have to go inside. You know what I mean? So now if they're going to nurse a drink until 12 o'clock, then basically the bar scene stays open until midnight, Unless you're picking up the drink and removing it from the table, then how are you not just, I don't see how you're accomplishing your goal. You're not going to lift a drink if somebody's eating food.
Well, that's the point, is to not lift the drink, I think. I get what you're saying. I just want to make sure you understand.
Yeah. Well, I think it's your responsibility to make sure that this stuff doesn't happen, okay? That the restaurant, hospitality industry does not fold onto another shutdown, which has happened in most states that opened up with reckless abandon, okay? And sometimes it's not the reckless abandon wasn't the state's intention, but once 50 people get into a bar, then it becomes reckless abandon regardless of what the intention of the rule that was established. So, I don't know. That's what I've got. And I don't know what the amendments were that you put on
Councilor
there.
Frankie, I see his hand up.
The what now?
Councilor Frankie? I always forget to look at the screen.
I would just like to echo Mr. Guerre's comments that if you move too quickly, particularly with bars, that's what happened in Florida and Texas, where they've got massive amounts of COVID. Here in Maine, we don't have massive amounts of COVID, but that doesn't mean that we should be blasé about it. I think what we're doing right now is working pretty well. The restaurants are able to operate. It's difficult for everybody, but we're living in a new world right now. And I don't see any reason to change, make dramatic changes just for a couple of extra drinks late on Saturday night.
Okay.
Again, I have no opposition to the extension of the dates involved. My issue is more that extra hour. Okay, that I think will, you know, you'll be cleaning tables off at midnight instead of 11 o'clock, basically. That's what's going to happen, because they can get 2 drinks at 11 o'clock, nurse it till midnight. Okay, all of a sudden you're a bar.
Okay.
Okay?
Yes, sir.
That's my input. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I appreciate all you guys have done for us, really, because you kind of saved our butts, you know, for not only Silver Street, but Silver Street, 18 Below, Jennifer's Place, Kevin's Place. So, very good. Thank you so much. Chief?
So just so everyone is...
I'm sorry, Chief had his hand. He wanted-
Chief. I just want to, while you're coming over to the table, that the amendment that's on the table from Councilor Foss is to amend it so that there is no serving past 11.
Correct.
But we're not forcing them, because they really can't go inside. I think that is, they can't go inside. But Councilor Foss's amendment is to amend this to actually curtail what is proposed here, not to expand what is proposed. Just want to make sure that the next vote everyone takes is on that particular amendment.
Right.
Chief.
Just let me make this comment. If the restaurant closes at 1 and it closed down, it's no longer serving food or alcohol, but allows people to continue to drink outside because they don't want to take their alcohol. If there are some issues, it could become a public drinking in public. If in fact the restaurant's closed, I mean, if the restaurant's still open inside and they're still just not serving out there, that's one thing. But if the restaurant closes, and it closes serving food, it's closed down for the evening, and they don't go clean off those tables at 11 o'clock, then there could be an issue with drinking in public. If they continue to consume alcohol out there, and we have issues with it.
Is that different? Is that different than when I've been at restaurants when they close and they've never told me to leave until I'm done?
Right. But what makes this different is they're not attached and they're not inside. This is across the street. The restaurant is now closed for business. They're not serving anymore. They're not serving food. They're not serving alcohol. You can't go in. They're closed. And they allow you to buy alcohol at 5 minutes to 11, and you go out there and give them 3 or 4 drinks and then continue to drink after that.
I don't think they're going to be stacking drinks on something.
Or
Yes,
even
they
if
would.
they don't, if they just continue to drink.
Well, I don't think I'm saying I don't think our restaurant owner. I'm not saying the patrons aren't going to try for it.
They'll try.
Jennifer would like to comment, and I would like to have her comment.
Yeah.
So we're open 2 nights until 11, and generally, we're still there cleaning up for a long time after that. So it would be, if somebody comes in, our kitchen doesn't close until we close, so they can come in later. Generally speaking, this isn't even an issue for us. We might have a couple of tables lingering. Any live music we have has already ended well over an hour before that. So it would just be, there would still be a server watching them. If they have a beverage, we have to have eyes on them anyway for the liquor codes. So
That's the issue, would be some oversight from the.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like we're gonna abandon them, leave them out there with their dishes and their drink and say, okay, see you later. So we'd be there still, with eyes on the area. And by that time of night, really, it might be a couple of tables. It's generally not very many people. I just don't want to pull up their meal and say, hey, you've got to go inside.
Nope.
Because a lot of people who are dining outside, the reason they don't want to go inside is because of the pandemic, and they don't want to be inside, so.
The important part is the oversight there, so I'm fine.
Councilor Fox?
I do have a question for Chief. Since we opened this up this summer as open container, public drunkenness, things like of that nature, has that increased year over year?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Did you have?
No.
Oh, you.
No, yeah.
Okay, so we're going to take a roll call on the amendment, which the amendment tonight is to specify that again, that they
Order taking stop at 11.
order.
Can I just chime in real? So the current ordinance in the outdoor dining is there'll be no outdoor dining or liquor service after 11 p.m. So I feel like what your amendment is already what's in there. Because if you're just saying outdoor dining extension serving ends at 11, that's what it kind of already says.
But we want to continue,
You basically want people to be able to stay and finish there.
stay and finish.
Correct.
So it stops serving at 11.
That's the
but they
revision,
can
yeah.
they can remain outside and finish until midnight.
So I think
That's what we wanna-
instead of
yeah.
serving, I think you want something else, like, because it already says they have to stop serving at 11.
Okay, that outdoor,
Patronage can be
the
until
outdoor,
12 o'clock.
May consume?
patrons can continue whatever meals and drinks that are on their table can continue until they are finished.
Well, we don't want to say fin. We still want to say midnight. We got the midnight
Right.
in there, right? For that extra hour, right? Jennifer, is that correct? Like you don't want to stay there until you're finished. Like some guys, like, oh, I'm going to chew everything 48 times, and yeah, stay there till 1:30. Yeah, okay.
So if we end serving at midnight.
No, we're going to end serving at 11.
And serving at 11.
End serving at 11.
And allow them to
Okay.
finish.
And the close of business is at midnight. That gives them a target in which they've got to
But
clean
their
up.
business is still closing at 11, but they're staying like any restaurant.
I know, I just don't know how to word this, make it right.
Well, I think Sarah, that says it right, though, right? Like, may continue, outdoor dining extension may continue until 12 midnight. Does that not read that they're able to continue? They can't be served anything after 11.
Oh, there's already a
but they're
separate thing
able
that says they can't serve after 11.
after 11,
But they can continue dining.
until
Yeah,
midnight.
you can continue your outdoor dining
Continuance
until,
of outdoor dining till 12 o'clock, and that's the ceiling.
Dining. Yeah, if we have a separate item that states that the serving has to stop at 11.
Right.
right, which is what,
I think it's probably good as is then.
I mean, I don't know if the chief wants to chime in. I mean, do you have any?
No, he's good.
I'd recommend that you just say they stop serving at 11 and leave the rest silent.
Which is what is currently in the ordinance.
It doesn't prohibit them from finishing their drink, it just says that you won't serve
Correct.
beyond 11 o'clock.
And
Sure.
In years past, we had to have the glasses off the table on the patio at 11 o'clock. Okay, and if we had glasses on the table, then the police officers would come down and say, I'm supposed to have alcohol on the table. So if that's different, than what it was,
Right.
then it's different. But that's the way it's been for years, is we have to say, hey, you can't have alcohol out here, you gotta go inside. So, in regards to stacking, if you're serving right up until 11 o'clock, you know, I've had happy hours, 3 to 6, 3 to 5. At 4:59, people are stacking, okay? So they can stay there. Because they're not gonna be able to get another drink unless they order a drink right at the witching hour. So, whatever you decide, but that's the way it's always worked in the past.
Okay.
Can I say something, Nick?
Yes, Eric.
I mean, I think it makes it hard for the police to enforce. I mean, when do they, if they walk up at 11:15, they don't know when that drink was served. I mean, I'm inclined to say people can sit out there and you know, if they have food, they can finish it. If they want to drink water and keep chatting with each other, that's fine. But I kind of agree with Charlie that at that point, there should no longer, if the business is closed and they're inside cleaning up, there probably should not be alcohol on the table at that point.
There's not. They have a server out there.
But, well, I think what Eric's saying is, but the establishment's closed to new business. So, I mean, I guess,
Maybe that's where the line is.
like, but I mean,
I don't
I guess I'm
mean
trying to
interject,
understand,
but-
like, I'm trying to understand, like, if you're closed, but you have people outside, like, what's your responsibility as the owner of the establishment to keep an eye? I mean, granted, a few plates and things of that nature, but, you know, like, if you stay open, you say you're open until midnight, but you shut down service at 11, I mean, doesn't that, essentially,
she's
doesn't that do the
not.
same thing?
No, the business closes at 11. But if I come in at 10:45 and order a plate of food and a beer, the idea is that I can finish it after 11.
Right.
Right.
Outside.
I don't have to slurp it down in 15 minutes.
Correct.
And they have an obligation to have eyes on me out there by the liquor code. Because
Can I- So currently the law, if you are inside a bar, they cannot serve you a drink after 1 o'clock, but you are legally allowed to have a drink in your hand until 1:15. So it seems to me perhaps what should be is they can't serve you a drink after 11 o'clock, but you know, if you came in at 10:45 and you're drinking a beer, half an hour is plenty of time to drink a beer. So perhaps by 11:15, there should not be any alcohol on the table anymore.
We say 11:30.
That would be fine with me, but I think giving people an extra hour to be nursing a drink, I mean, I would do it.
Rescinded, so moved.
You know, I would order 2 drinks at 5 minutes to 11 and be like, you know,
All right, we'll
and
say
there's
11:30.
no incentive for the business to say no.
11:30.
And it makes it hard for the police to enforce, like I said.
I see Flavia's hand.
Yeah, I actually agree with what Eric just said, and I said that, and I believe that we should give them an extra 30 minutes. So say by 11:30, as it's cleaning up, they have to leave. Giving them an extra 30 minutes, I think is actually fair. But to go in and change the whole time, I don't think that's fair at this point. I think it is. We should keep it at 11 p.m.
I think everybody's in agreement with 11:30.
Yeah. So good.
Okay, so we'll have a vote on the amendment. Could I get a roll call on the amendment to amend the time to 11:30?
Counselor Morris?
Yes.
Counselor Oliveira?
So just a clarification. So we're just amendment the 11:30 for you to stay there, but service time will stay at 11 p.m.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
Is that correct? Yes.
Yes.
So you're a yes.
Yes.
Counselor Mayu?
Yes.
Counselor Foss?
Yes.
Counselor Frankie?
No, I think we should stick with the way things are.
Counselor Thomas?
Yes.
Vote is 5 in favor, 1 opposed.
Motion to move is amended, please.
So moved.
Second.
Counselor Morris?
Yes.
Counselor Oliveira?
Yes.
Counselor
I'm
Mayu?
sorry, what are we voting on now?
The actual amendment?
The actual
The
amendment, we're moving it
resolution
as
as
amended.
Okay, would you read the resolution as amended, please?
That the outdoor dining area is open until 11:30, but the service is still 11.
And we're extending the date to November 1 or snowfall, whatever happens first.
Well, that wasn't amendment.
That wasn't in the amendment.
That was part of the, that's part of the fuller.
Oh, the original.
Oh, yeah, right, right.
That's what
Number
we're,
two.
that is
Number
part
two.
of what
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
passing.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Councillor Foss?
Yes.
Councillor Frankie?
Before we move on, these are really two separate issues. The issue of staying open, keeping things going until November 1st is a question that we probably should raise with all of the restaurants we're serving outside in town, and have a fuller discussion about that. I think we're premature on this. I'm going to vote no on this because we're premature.
I disagree. We've had public notice on this. Please vote for this tonight.
Yeah, I mean,
What
we
can-
just heard from another business that shuts down at 10. This has no impact on them at all. So,
Yeah.
like,
And if they don't want to stay, keep
they're
their
one of the bigger
outdoor dining
ones.
open past October 1, they don't have to.
Right. Yeah.
All right, we'll have the roll call, please.
Councillor Frankie?
No.
Councillor Thomas?
Yes.
Vote is 5 in favor, 1 opposed.
Oh, great. And so, and then next week we'll talk about maybe a further extension.
Yep.
Next is Order 173, 2020.
In order providing for approval of forfeiture.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call, please.
Councillor Morris?
Yes.
Councillor Oliveira?
Yes.
Councillor Mayu?
Yes.
Councillor Foss?
Yes.
Councillor Frankie?
Yes.
Councillor Thomas?
Yes.
Vote is 6 in favor, 0 opposed.
Order 174, 2020.
In order providing for approval of pipeline easement and right-of-way agreement.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call, please.
Councillor Morris?
Yes.
Councillor Oliveira?
Yes.
Councillor Mayu?
Yes.
Councillor Foss?
Yes.
Councillor Frankie?
Yes.
Councillor Thomas?
Yes.
Vote is 6 in favor, 0 opposed.
Resolution 175, 2020.
A resolution providing for issuance of a liquor license to Erica's, Vayu and Cody LLC doing business as Erica's.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Councillor Morris?
Yes.
Councillor Oliveira?
Yes.
Councillor Mayu?
Yes.
Councillor Foss?
Yes.
Councillor Frankie?
Yes.
Councillor Thomas?
Yes.
Vote is 6 in favor, 0 opposed.
Resolution 176, 2020.
A resolution providing for issuance of a vitulers license to Erica's, Vayu and Cody LLC doing business as Erica's.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call, please.
Councillor Morris?
Yes.
Councillor Oliveira?
Yes.
Councillor Mayu?
Yes.
Councillor Foss?
Yes.
Councillor Frankie?
Yes.
Councillor Thomas?
Yes.
Vote is 6 in favor, 0 opposed.
Resolution 177, 2020.
A resolution providing for issuance of a second-hand license to Allison Roberts doing business as Allie's Place Thrift Store.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Is there discussion? Is there anybody here from the business that wants to tell us about it?
I don't think she's here tonight, no.
Okay. I always like to give the opportunity.
Absolutely.
We'll take a roll call.
Councillor Morris?
Yes.
Councillor Oliveira?
Yes.
Councillor Mayu?
Yes.
Councillor Foss?
Yes.
Councillor Frankie?
Yes.
Councillor Thomas?
Yes.
Vote is 6 in favor, 0 opposed.
And Resolution 178, 2020.
A resolution providing for issuance of a vitulers license to Mark Watson doing business as Bowley's Famous Franks, Waterville.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion?
Just happy bullies.
Is there anyone here from Bowley's? Well, I know my family's going to be happy. We'll take a roll call, please.
Counselor Morris?
Yes.
Counselor Oliveira?
Yes.
Counselor Mayu?
Yes.
Counselor Foss?
Yes.
Counselor Frankie?
Yes.
Counselor Thomas?
Yes.
Vote is 6 in favor, 0 opposed.
All right. Are there any counselor updates? Counselor Frankie?
Yes, I'd just like to say that the solar committee for the city met with the company, the developer who's going to be putting together the solar project out at the airport. We walked around the site and it looks like the wheels are turning on that project. They're looking at this point about, if they get all their approvals, being able to start work sometime in July next summer.
Anybody else? Nope. Community notes. Community notes is a time where if anybody has something they would like to say that was not on the agenda tonight, now would be the time to do it. We just ask you to come to the microphone and tell us your name, where you live, and what you have to say.
Ernie Grolleman, Johnson Heights. About the COVID virus, you may have a lot more problems this fall because Harvard University has discovered that very small increases in air pollution will cause an 8% increase in COVID deaths and infections. They said technically that an increase of 1 microgram per cubic meter fine particulate matter will cause this 8% increase in the deaths. From personal experience as an engineer with the EPA and the DEP, I know that the pollution levels at houses next to wood burners creates approximately plus or minus 50 micrograms per cubic meter, which is 50 times the 1 microgram per cubic meter. Beware.
Okay, thank you.
People who have asthma and heart disease are going to have problems. And this COVID thing, you know, the air pollution, the wood smoke especially, is very immunotoxic. It shuts down the immune system. You can't fight it off. I know this from personal experience with my daughter. So I'm just trying to tell you, heads up.
Thank you.
Thank you. That sucks.
Mike, manager's report.
Councilor Frankie mentioned the solar committee. They're meeting Thursday. I want to mention the parking committee meeting next Thursday, the 13th, 5 p.m. It'll be a virtual meeting. Next week, I'm wondering if the council would agree to schedule a special meeting Tuesday, the 11th. And I think Chief Essler is still viewing, so he can chime in on the work that's being done by him and the fire department committee in the Delta agreement, working with Delta to forge really a brand new rescue service. Rescue is not the best word, but I think you know what I'm trying to say. And that meeting next Tuesday would just be an opportunity for information, questions, and no votes required. Just an opportunity for people to hear about the plan that's being put together where the city and Delta merge many of the functions. So over time, there'd be a very considerable impact on revenues for us, also additional staffing, so there'd be some cost, obviously. But it's an exciting thing, and I give the chief and his committee people a lot of credit for getting to this point. I think the idea of a work meeting or a meeting just to hear and ask questions would be a good opportunity for us to get up to speed on it.
Great.
People okay with that going forward with next Tuesday night? Chief Essler, if you're still there, anything to add?
He's gone.
No, he's there.
He is
Oh,
gone.
is.
Okay.
Oh,
He's there.
he just went from the photo to his actual.
Oh.
He went live.
Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
All right, so basically, the city manager got it absolutely right. Under the direction of the Fire Department Study Committee, myself and Executive Director from Delta Ambulance, Tim Beals, have been meeting. We've come up with a proposal. We brought that proposal to our medical directors, Dr. Pay and Dr. Diaz, and of course to the Fire Department Study Committee, who have reviewed this, and essentially we have approval to move it forward to the council. And, you know, I was very clear when I did my last presentation that, you know, I would be committed to working with Delta. I would also be committed to the city in providing for public input, as well as taking a comprehensive look at EMS. And these ambulances, the purchase really have opened the door for a much stronger EMS system that is working alongside of Delta Ambulance. And this is just an opportunity to get together with the Fire Department Study Committee, with the medical directors, and give you the proposal, give you an opportunity to answer any questions, and really move this forward. And ideally, we would have liked to have it done a couple months ago, but it's taken considerable amount of time to get to this point. So we're just looking for an informational session in hopes of securing council support to move forward with the resolution to begin this new program.
Fantastic. I think it's great news.
That's it for me.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Okay.
We're done. Thank you, everybody.
Non-debatable.